How's it going, everybody? This is Eman from TCGWise123, and today I am bringing you guys my deck that I took to the Anahiem KMC. I ended up taking. I finally was able to get my first top 8, but sadly I lost to the first round of top 8 to fellow teammate Steven, and he ended up winning the whole tournament. So I'm really happy that one of our local groups was able to take the plane ticket. But this is my deck. I took 7th. This is Light Water Fire Nature. It's 44 cards. It's centered around the Sabertooth. So let's get started. So we'll start off with the light section. It's pretty small but effective. It's an 8-card section. We got 2 Keeper of Laws, 3 Lyra the Blazing Sun, and 3 Stormspark Blast. With water, we got 3 Cyber Scamps, 3 Loco Scamps, 3 Rusalka, and 1 General Finbar. For fire, we got 2 Helo Flames, 2 Blade Rush Wyvern, or Wyvern, however you pronounce it, 2 Dragon's Breath, and 2 Bolt-tailed Dragons. For nature, we got 3 Prickleback, 3 Sprouts, 3 Bronze Arm Sabertooth, yes I know, I'm missing a promo, and 3 Root Traps. Finally, with the multi-sieves, we got 3 Weaponized Razor Cats, 2 Swordhorn, and last but not least, 1 Heretic Prince Rakka. So yeah, the deck started out as Water Fire Nature. I ran it a week before the KMC for Anahiem. The deck was at 42 cards, I think. Yeah, I think it was 42 cards when it was originally Water Fire Nature. But then after testing more Haven decks, I was testing Bobby's list a lot. I was like facing it against it, and sometimes like what I need is just a Stormspark Blast to get game, because Haven is just freaking like I really wish that it was like I'm fine with the Your ability, but if it was worded like Keeper of Laws, like if there was another creature on the field, then I would be fine with Haven. But just the fact that it has hexproof permanently is just it's just freaking terrible. Like if I hit bottle and like they get turn 2 Haven, how the hell am I supposed to answer it on turn 3? I can't bounce it. I can't attack with Blade Rush, or it can't even like play Economist or any of that stuff. So yeah, enough of that little rant. The light section was I felt the light section was needed, so instead of just splashing in the 3 Storm Sparks, I decided to add more of the light cards, and that's where the Keeper of Laws and Lyras came in. Laws is still very good card in this meta. Lets you draw. It's very good against the control decks, and it's its original purpose was to be an aggro deck. So was it ever relevant? Out of 6 of the matches that I've played, at least 3 of them, at least like half of the matches, Laws was really relevant. Lyra is still a very good light creature. It taps it down, it stalls the opponent and enables you to bypass like blockers, bigger creatures that can revenge kill my creatures, etc. Like Lyra is still needed, and Stormspark Blast instead of 2. I really wanted to play 3 because like it's just way too good. It wins you games that you shouldn't be winning in the first place. It's just a game changer. In my feature match on the top 8 against Steven, I think I hardcasted Stormspark when I had 4 creatures in play, and he had like a huge field. And what I forgot about before I casted Storm Spark Blast, I actually forgot that my opponent had two Andromedas, and that was really that really hurt a lot. But I still think that play was still necessary because I still had to be aggressive, and I think if I were to just continue swarming my field, I think at one point he would have played Storm Spark and just like wiped my whole field. So I think that wasn't a misplay, but it was just I think it was more of an act of desperation more than anything. But with the water section, three cyber scamps was again really the laws, and cyber scamps are really needed against the control decks, and it's really fun when you have both of them together because whenever your opponent will cast a spell, you will draw a card from laws, and you get a body on the field with cyber scamps. So that's pretty much like a +2 right there. So well, as long as you have another cyber scamp in your deck. So. Sometimes it does happen that both cyber scams are in shields. Very rarely that happens, but it could happen. So, cyber scam was really needed, and again, I couldn't get cyber scam without the help of my fellow teammate Brian. So I have to thank him a lot for letting me borrow the cyber scams for the tournament. 3 logo scans because sometimes I need the extra cards in my hand. I think it's still a really solid draw engine. Surprisingly, I didn't face like sometimes like people don't play laws against me because I'm being very aggressive, and so keeper of laws is pretty much like somewhat useless against me because I don't run that many spells. And so I think logo scans in an aggro deck is still a very good choice. The +1 is always welcomed. The 3 Rusalkas, it's there to bounce stuff, annoy your opponent, and it's a really solid card. You always gotta, when you play against dragons, you gotta I don't play Rusalka unless I have another Rusalka within my hand. Because if I bounce Herald twice, then the opponent that's using dragons, they won't play Herald for like the 3rd time. So with this deck, you gotta be somewhat careful when playing against dragons. But any other matchup, it should be fine. One general Finmark, because sadly I only bought one structure deck of it. Honestly, it didn't do nothing for me at all. It either landed in mana because I needed water mana, or I just I won the game like fairly quickly that I didn't get to see it. So that's the water section. It's a 10 card section. Moving on with fire, 2 Helo Flames. I think it's still a really solid card. Depending on what type of meta you think you're gonna face against in your KMC, if there's discard, then it shouldn't be no problem because if you're holding a bunch of threats in your hand, and they see that you have Helo Flame in your hand, they will most likely get rid of Helo Flame. It just depends on like the board state or whatever, but I still think Helo Flame was a very solid choice. I didn't face any. Well, my first round I did face a Kalima deck, and it did ran. The only discard it ran was Mesmerize. It didn't ran the Maddening Whispers, but yeah, I still think Helo Flame is a solid choice. 2 Blade Rush, Wyvern, whatever. I think it's a really solid card against the Haven decks because it just not bypasses, but it basically banishes a blocker, which enables you to continue your aggression against them. Because with the Haven decks, you really do need to get aggressive to them. But if the Haven player knows that they're gonna face a bunch of rush and aggro, the best answer for aggro and rush is always gonna be bottle. Yeah. 2 Dragon's Breath. I was somewhat fearing about the rush, the rush matchup. In theory, this shouldn't be no problem. I actually did face a rush deck, and I ended up out rushing the rush deck, which seems kind of odd. And really, Dragon's Breath just landing into mana always. It didn't really do. It did nothing for me except provided fire mana, which is not always bad, but and whenever it was relevant, I couldn't really play it because of Eternal Havens. It boosts up like the light creatures by 4,000, so that Humanculon just went up to 7,000 power, and I completely forgot about that. I think I did a misplay of that on camera. I don't remember. Last but not least, we got the 2 Bolt Tails because I don't have 3 Heretic. Would I have chosen Building Degree? I don't know. It's either the extra 1,000 power or the 6,000 power versatility of attacking untapped creatures, which normally would somewhat slow you down. Of course, you can still like fast attack and double break. Of course, you can do that, but with the versatility of attacking over creatures such as revenge killing Lyras or something like that, was it needed, or was it ever relevant in my matches? I don't really think so, because I just had to like rush them like really quickly, and besides, like Boltel like runs over Lyra. That's part of my main point about Boltel, that you can run over Lyra without suiciding. With nature, we got the standard Sabertooth and nature section. It's oh yeah, by the way, the fire is 8 cards. Nature is 12, 3 Pricklebacks, 3 Sprouts, 3 Sabertooths, and last but not least, 3 Root Traps. Prickleback and Sabertooth is pretty standard. You know, Prickleback is your bait, Sabertooth is your Evo, really needed on turn 4. Sprout wasn't really that great, to be honest. It was great nature mana, and when it would land into shields, you know, when in doubt, you cast a Sprout. And for Root Trap, it's pretty solid. Removal, you know, can't target laws. I mean, can't target Haven, which sucks. But anyways, last but not least, we'll go over the multi-save cards. It's a 6-card section, 3 weaponized Razor Cats. Again, it's bait for Sabertooth, and it's just a huge body on turns 3. And speaking of huge bodies, we got the 2 Sword Horns, 3 for 5,500. There's not a lot that can answer to that. It's just like a really huge body that like triggers an alarm to your opponent that, wow, like they have to like get rid of this card, or else like all my blockers go bye-bye. And last but not least, the 1 Heretic. Surprisingly, the only time I played Heretic was on my top 8 match. That was the only time I ever played or saw a Heretic. No, I'm pretty sure on my 2nd match I had it in my hand, but I just ended up like out rushing my opponent. So my first round for the KMC, I faced against a Kalima deck. It based around dark nature with a splash of water. Game 1, I ended up winning on turn, I want to say 8 to 10. I think it was before Kalima came out, for sure. And then on game 2, he ended up controlling the board stage, and ultimately won the 2nd match. And the final match, this game was like really close. Like, if games go up to game 3, then you know it's a good game. And excuse me. 3rd game, I think I had a Lyra, or I had a double breaker on the field, and what I really and I just needed a fast attacker to just go for a game, because he only had 2 shields left, and he had 8 mana. No, he had 9 mana going up to 10. So I'm pretty sure Kalima was gonna come down and like do her stuff, and so I was in a position where I could have either played it safe, or I could have gone game based on the shields. So after probably like 30 seconds to a minute of thought, I decided to play the Helo Flame double break with whatever double breaker I had on the field. He had no shields, and that was game. And I was like, oh wow, this is a great start. This is a great start. So game 2, oh man, like, oh man, I can't believe like like our store owner, the place where I would always go to duel days, our whole table on the back, which was table 1 through I believe like 7 or 8, it was like all the way in the back. Almost all of our local play groups and our teammates, we were all on the same like table, and I ended up facing against my friend that I took there, and he was running the standard light water dark fire. Yeah, light water dark fire dragons. I think his was a 46 card build. I let him borrow some cards for that. Game 1, I ended up rushing him. Game 2, he ended up controlling the board state with Andromedas, Awakens, like a bunch of like the boss creatures, and we weren't going easy on each other. Like we were actually like facing each other. We were actually like trying to win, and he would like cast bottles, whenever he could, but he ended up whiffing off a bottle. So that was good news for me, but. And then it went up to game 3. The game was really close. I think again, the situation like I had a double break and all I needed was a fast attacker, or I think he had like no shields and I just needed like a Lyra to tap down something. I don't know, something like that. But it went up to game 3 and I ended up winning, so that put me to 2-0. And my third match was against another fellow teammate. He was running light water fire. I think that deck won at the Connecticut KMC, I want to say, where Alex Land and his group played at. If I do get the place wrong, I apologize. I think it was in Connecticut, but I can't remember off right now. But he was using light water fire. Surprisingly, I ended up outrushing him. I think the fact that my creatures were just like way too big for his winnies to revenge kill, and I ended up like drawing like crazy cards that enabled me to bypass his weenie creatures, revenge kill his weenie creatures, tap down his blockers, banish his blockers. It was just crazy, and then I ended up winning 2-0, and that put me up to 3-0. The fourth match, I ended up facing against Steven, the eventual winner of the event. He was using Light Water Dark Nature Haven Control, and that game was just terrible for me. I got slaughtered. Like, I got 2-0'd. The deck that I've practiced against so many times, and I ended up losing 2-0. It was just really sad, and I was like, oh, great. The fifth and final round, I was going up against Sammy Huda, and we talked for a bit, and we decided to draw, so that we can both secure our spots for top 8. Thinking back, I think I should have faced against him, so that I could have been the top of my civ and get the bag in the box, but I don't really think that would have mattered. I think he was like rank 3 or something at that point. Rank 3 or rank 4, and I was like, no, I think it was rank 3 and I was ranked 5, at that point. And so we both drew, and my final record was 3 wins, 1 loss, and one draw. So this deck took 3-1-1. I was really happy and pleased with the results. Again, I recorded my top 8 match, and I ultimately lost to Haven Control again on game 3, which was a way better match than the Swiss round. So I'm actually very surprised that I was able to finally get my first top 8 out of two KMC's event. My first event was in Bakersfield. I didn't upload the video, but I got 12th place on that one with Water Dark Fire Dragons. And then my second event, which was this event in KMC Anahiem. So again, the deck is 44 cards. I definitely think I should have tried to get it around at least 42 to 40 cards, but it was just really tough to cut a lot of the cards. I know I reached out to Scott Rivers and Robert Hebert from Texas. Like, I messaged them like a couple days before this event. I sent them this exact deck list, and then Robert Hebert presented me his changes. I think he told me to add another Finbar, but I had one. He also suggested 2 more Heretics, but I didn't have 2 more Heretics. I think he also took out Blade Rush. He took out Blade Rush and the Sprouts. Although Sprout didn't really do much for me, I still think the 12 nature count was still needed, because I really do need a lot of the nature to get out like the turn 1 Prickleback or the turn 2 Razor Cat or turn 3 Swordhorn. Like, I really did needed the nature mana in the opening hand to try to outrush my opponent. So I still think the 12 card section, the 12 nature section was solid. Again, with the fire, Dragon's Breath didn't really do a lot, so I could take that out. In terms of for the card Piercing Judgment, so I was thinking of that card as well. Because I think I only had 11 Shield Blasts in this deck, which is not that much. But again, you are trying to outrush your opponent, so the Shield Blasts are not that much needed. But Piercing Judgment was definitely one of the cards that I was thinking of trying to incorporate in this deck. And also, like, Robert Hebert also suggested to put down Piercing Judge. I just couldn't cut Blade Rush because he was such an important card against Haven and against any other deck that was running blockers. Again, with the Sprouts, the nature mana was really needed. I was thinking of adding another Swordhorn, but then that would put up to like seven multi-sis, which is sort of weird. And it was just really hard for me to cut out cards. But do I think this card has potential in the future meta? Somewhat. I mean, I know there was a Deep Sea Saberbolt, or Saber Blaze, I should say. It was another 4-color Saber Tooth deck, but that one actually ended up being Water Dark Fire Nature, and with the cards like Shade Blaze, and I think that was part of the Team Ascensions group. People such as Sexy Dream Pirate and Jeff Monkey Jeffers. I think Jeff Monkey was the one that ran the deck. But his was like 50 cards or something like that, and that was just like way too huge. And like I was testing this deck like before I saw that deck list, and I just really thought that light was really needed against Haven. But that's the whole deck. That's my whole explanation and brief summary of all the all my matches that I faced up against. I hope you like the deck. Present me with your changes in the deck, with cuts, cards to add. Should I have bumped it up to 45? So yeah, thank you guys for watching and take care.